Heyo, my name is Xander and this is my vlog. So today I thought I would take some time and teach you the makeup from Season 2, Episode 3 of King of the Nerds, because it was the LARPing challenge and I was put in charge of the makeup for both my character Itacho, the SpellSinger, as well as Titus, the warrior. So this tutorial is going to be the old man makeup for Itacho. And if you'd like to see Titus the Lizardman, you can click here, click this annotation, and that'll be the video for that makeup as well. Alright, so I'm not a beauty guru, I'm not a normal makeup tutorial person, but I do makeup for the show that I'm a part of called Dungeon Master, and we do a lot of like character makeup, and a lot of the time I see it as painting rather than makeup. So it's not like basic beauty or anything like that, but these are just a few of the tricks that I learned over the years for doing theatrical makeup. Now, when we were doing the challenge on King of the Nerds, we had very limited resources when it came to makeup. We only had a couple of palettes of like very basic stuff. So I'm going to try to keep true to that when I do these tutorials because it kind of gives you an insight as to what we were working with, as well as it's easy for you to do this at home. So one of the things that I wanted to do with the old man was to really accentuate the wrinkles that I already have, because I already have some wrinkles. So I had a basic black that was in the palette, and what you want to do is you want to take this basic black and just highlight all of the shadows that you already have, and feel free to make some faces to try to see where your wrinkles naturally are. And because we're doing theater makeup, we're going to make it really dark and really pronounced. Now with anything that I do with the makeup, you always want to start with something that's very dark first, and then kind of blend it out either with a brush or with your fingers. So for this, I'm going to be doing it with my fingers. And I always do the shadows first. But for this, I really wanted the pronounced jowls. And this is something that comes from Japanese makeup as well. If you look at traditional Japanese theater, kabuki, they also paint along these lines because when you make expressions from far away, it's very pronounced. You can see everything that's happening. Now for us, we're using makeup in the LARPing challenge. And while traditionally you probably don't really wear makeup to a LARPing battle, I feel like it's a good accent to any characters that you're doing to kind of really give it that extra step in your costume. So if you make your character a non-human or an old man or something that's just out of the ordinary, I feel like it takes your costume to the next level. So I've accented my jowls here with my shadows. I'm going to move on to the eyes, and already I'm going to like make the squinting motion to see where I already have lines, and then just kind of get in there with the brush. And feel free to have fun with this and make yourself like as ugly as possible, because that's what it's all about. And again, I'm putting in the pigment and then I'm blending with my finger. One side's a little bit too dark. Whoop. So, jowls under the eyes, a little bit of crow's feet, and then the forehead. So I'm going to make some wrinkles in my forehead, and then just use the brush to kind of fill it in. For blending, I like to use a patting motion because I feel like that kind of spreads the pigment out in an even way as opposed to just smudging with your finger. Because if you do that, then it kind of leaves the pigment from going from one side to the other. Whereas if you pat with your fingers, you're kind of evenly distributing the pigment. And then, let me see the picture real quick. Yeah. So this is just the shadow portion, and all that I used was black. So to kind of lighten it up, because it's very drastic, we didn't have it at the time, but I'm going to use it here. I have some natural set colorless face powder, and because I'm using like grease makeup, you really have to use this stuff. And when you're using black, you want to use the colorless stuff because otherwise it loses pigmentation. So what you want is you want to take your brush and put it in the powder and then dust it off because you don't want a whole lot. And what I like to do is kind of push the bristles together and really pat it down over the pigment. That way you get a chance to get as much powder as possible and let it set. And with black, you're going to lose some of the pigment when it's put on, but then you're going to brush it off once it's dry, and you should get most of it back. So once I have the powder on the first layer of the makeup, I'm going to take it and I'm just going to take the brush and I'm going to brush it off. That way you get some of that pigment back. But it does blend it a little more into the skin. Okay, so now that we have the shadow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take like a flesh color, and I'm going to take that, it's a shade or 2 or 3 lighter than my actual skin color, and that's what I'm going to be using for the highlights. So what I like to do is take where the shadows are and go right next to it with the highlights. So again, we're going to be putting in the highlights in areas where the natural skin would reflect light. So in this case with the jowls, I'm going to put lightness here and here. And then once I have the pigment applied, I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to blend it in. Now, even though I didn't put any shadow here, I'm going to highlight underneath where light would naturally catch, to kind of give me more of a pronounced chin. And I'm also going to do that here to give it more of kind of like a wrinkly effect. So all I did was go in with the highlight color and do some lines over the top of my lip. I'm going to blend that out. And then once I have the lines blended in, at the top, I'm going to blend it over and get them down to where it's just smaller wrinkles. I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. So if you can see, it makes kind of that wrinkly old man effect. I'm also going to give my nose a kind of a bulbous different shape. So I'm going to take this where highlights normally would be used to kind of elongate the nose. I'm going to use them instead to make it a bigger nose. Plus it gives kind of that like dusty old person feeling to it. Same thing with the under eyes. We've put shadows under the eyes, but now we need to put the highlights. So again, just follow the line where you put the first shadow. Put in some highlights and then blend it out. This will really make your eyes pop on stage, but it'll also give that great bag look to the under eye, because it looks like the highlighted part is very pronounced, and then the shadow part, because it's so dark, it makes it look like it's a real big shadow that's coming through. Same thing with the other side. Whenever you're contouring your face, to make that face shape, this is basically the law that I follow all the time. Just create shadows where you think the shadows would be for that face shape, and then do a highlight right next to the shadow to really give it that depth. And again, this is for stage, so this is for makeup that's going to be seen from afar. And then again, go in with the crow's feet. Wherever I have a shadow line, I'm going to be putting a highlight line. And then blending it out. I'm getting older! And again, up here, finding the shadow lines and giving them highlights. This will make those like wrinkly fold effects. Hopefully I'm not this wrinkled when I'm older, but you never know. If I am, I will have lots of practice on what it looks like. Starting to look familiar. I think what I did is I just had a little bit going up. To make just another tiny like jowl shadow. A lot of people asked me if I was wearing a face piece. But this is it. This is just what my face looks like. Yeah. So that kind of makes it more of like that old sallow look, where it's really coming in. And then, with this second layer, again I'm going to go through and powder. So I'm putting my powder in and tapping it. Not only does the powder help to set the makeup, but when you're doing something like this, where you're seeming still human, you're just making accents, it kind of tones down the color so that it seems more like flesh rather than paint. Finally, what I did, I had a bit of clown white that they gave us. So I'm going to take my clown white here, just take a bit, like a fingerful, and that's what I'm going to use to kind of cover up my eyebrows. Because I had a white old man wig, I didn't want to have darker eyebrows. So I'm just using this to kind of, it like slicks down the eyebrows too, but also can give them that like salt and pepper look. So now I'm just putting on that base layer, then going through and cleaning up after the fact. Not only that, but it kind of thickens up the eyebrow and gives it more of like a bushy feeling to it. Yeah, man. And then you're gonna powder those eyebrows. And brush off the powder. And that's that. That's how you get an old man look. I am Itacho. And then you just grab a white wig, because everybody has one. And suddenly you're Itacho, the SpellSinger. Ooh. Yeah, so this is the old man makeup, but you can use this for old woman makeup, just any kind of aging. You can even be more subtle than this, but this is extreme theatrical makeup for when you want to do it from far away, so like a stage or some kind of performance. Next, I'm going to be doing the Lizardman makeup, and that was featured on Chris as Titus, so make sure to click here and you can see that video. Thanks for tuning in.